How's it going, everyone? Vince here with On to the Next podcast, episode 21, and I have my boy OG Flow. This dude is such a cool guy. I can't wait for you guys to listen to this one. This is On to the Next.
It's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my cloth, they tugging it. Putting up numbers, 99 problems, and I'm still kept it 100. Yeah, it's been a long time coming. They ain't cuffing my cloth, they tugging it.
All right, man. Aaron, or should I say Flo? Which one do you like to go by?
You know, since I was young, I went by Flo, and Flo just works.
Yeah, because I mean, you were given that nickname by somebody we know, right?
Yeah, your boy Carlos.
Yeah.
I think he was on one of your episodes. So,
because he was like, "Dang, look at him flow! Listen to him flow!
It's flow time! It's flow time!"
And it just kind of stuck. And we'll get into like why that is. But such a cool name, so fitting. I mean, a lot of people know you by Aaron because that's your God-given name. But yeah, man, how you doing tonight?
Man, I'm doing well, man. I'm doing real good. Just chilling, been relaxing the last few, got off work a little earlier, and just been chilling, man. It's been a nice night.
Yeah, so by the time this airs, 4th of July will be over. So what do you got planned for the 4th for this celebrating the 4th?
Man, I'm actually gonna work on the 4th.
Oh my God.
I decided to pick up a shift working at all places at the Fish concert that's up in Boulder.
Dude, you're funny. So yeah, so you'll be like working and getting high at the same time.
you already know, man. You already know.
Dude,
it's a good. I've worked it before. It's a good concert. As far as the people go, the people are good to go.
Yeah, they're all chill.
They're all chill. They're all. It's just a bunch of people wanting to hear the music, and so yeah. It's pretty chill.
Well, cool, man. So everybody, I know this dude because me and him go way back. We kind of grew up in this. Well, we did grow up in the same city, Karma City, and just mutually had a love, especially me and you. I feel like me and you have like a mutual love for music in a different way because we're both music producers. And yeah. I mean, and we both, like, nobody taught us what to do. We were just like, kind of like, we didn't have YouTube.
We didn't have the internet. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't know.
There's no how to anything. It's just like how to is all up here.
Yep. I had band class.
Yeah, that is true. So like, what's your background in music? Like, who was the music like generationally? Who, like,
so I grew up in church. So that, you know, we've always had worship leaders and people around, but with my parents being a big part in ministry and in church, they played guitars. They played. My mom played piano. So
yeah, I remember that.
There's always been singing and always, you know, they singing, sort of performing. They'd always have us, you know, whether she went to the nearest Christian bookstore, got some children's song instrumental and had us up in front of the children's class, you know, performing a song or something. There's always been something just going on. So naturally, my family, my siblings growing up got into band, and I got into my older brother H played the trumpet, and naturally he had a trumpet to hand me down, and so I just played the trumpet by default at first. But I really watching the drummer that we had, the poor guy was just learning how to play drums, and I never sat down and played any drums before, but I was like, man, this dude, like, he's got no beat. Like, this poor guy, man. And you can see the frustration in our teacher be like looking in the back, like, like trying to give him the beat.
She's like,
and it is like,
get on the beat.
so one day I just told the kid that was on there, and this was in 6th grade. I was like, hey, do you mind if I just try this? He's like, no, just try it real quick. And I jumped on that thing, and I remember the music teacher, he just like lit up like, there's a beat, like this is great.
Just natural.
I just jumped on it, and naturally just started playing the drums, man, and just had it. And he had talked to me, and he's like, look, I'm not officially allowed to let you switch once we start, but while we're in here in class and practice, by all means, you could play the drums. But when it comes to like the performances and stuff, you're going to have to do the trumpet because that's what you signed up for, just to keep it from getting in trouble, I guess. I don't know. But so that was where I really got my train. I guess I sort of started learning to read sheet music for drums, but not really. It was all by ear.
Yeah, that's how I was. I'm like, I could read music, but majority of me was just it was just by ear, by feel. Like that's who I was. I mean, that I know that's who you were. It was just all by feeling. We took what we heard all the time, and we just put it, and in our sense, we put it to paper. But it was like putting it
right.
Like you stepping in in 6th grade, stepping to that drum. It was like you already heard what needed to be done, and you just put it down. And that's just kind of what worked for us.
It was just like a God-given talent, man. I just jumped on that thing. Never once jumped on a drum set before, and I just did it.
Was
playing with all the different, the hands. I just did it.
You're like True Life Drumline. You ever seen that movie?
I don't think I have seen Drumline.
No, yeah, it's a good movie, but but dude, it's just the being able to take what you hear and put it down as just that was we're like filler writers. That's kind of what another buddy was saying, that we're kind of filler writers, where it's just what we hear is what we put into the world, Yeah. And that's always been cool about you. But you talked about your parents in church and everything, and that was a big influence early on in your life, because were your parents like the really strict parents, or were they like they wanted to guide you but didn't want to like be overbearing? How did you feel?
I never really felt like they were the strict parents. They definitely weren't like my wife's parents. So they weren't as strict as them. But they were pretty, they were more on the strict side than not.
Yeah.
But they weren't like high up there strict.
I mean, I should say your parents wanted you to follow the way of what they knew was right and wrong, and to them, which is right, is following God's rule. God's being obedient to God, being obedient to His ways according to the Word of God. And man, I'm just going to tell you, because there was pieces in my life where my mother, because she was the one who raised us Christian, like she was really strict. So it was like, I mean, we couldn't wear certain clothes. We were only listening to we only could listen to Christian music, and everything had to be on the down low if we were going to do things any other way,
Yeah.
But I mean, were they like that? Where they were like,
no, they would prefer us just listen to Christian music, right? But they understood if we were listening to secular music or whatever. We weren't listening to the crazy cussing rap and stuff in front of them.
Yeah.
Or, things like that. But, and we didn't go to like I think of it as back then, the hardcore Pentecostal churches were the ones that were like, you know, there's
I
have to
was
wear,
at some of them.
you know, if you're a girl, you have to wear skirts at church,
Long
or
skirts.
you have to, long skirts.
You look
and-
Amish.
Yeah. Where, so we were a little more, I guess, free in that sense. And then I bring up my wife's family. They grew up like that. So,
Yeah.
you know, I remember we did a concert at a church that my wife went to or grew up in. And, my sister couldn't get on stage and sing cause she was wearing pants.
Wow.
She had to stay on the bottom floor. Couldn't get on the altar.
That's yeah.
Do the singing.
That's what I'm talking about.
Yeah. So no, we didn't grow up in something like that, but you know, I remember even my mother-in-law now, I guess I should say, she would be like we'd show up at home and she'd be scratching CDs for my brother-in-laws on the concrete. Yeah, they want to listen to this junk, and it'd be like a Christian rap T-Bone CD. You want to hear this junk?
Yeah.
Like, and yeah, so I didn't grow up too strict crazy like that. No.
Yeah, and I mean, I love
my-
your parents. Yeah, what's that?
They did their best though in raising us and teaching us and discipling us. My dad, in knowing. Oh, my.
What's up, dude? Our girl is a girl, or boy.
It's a girl. I told you she was gonna come in here and do this. Can you
Dude,
pause again?
You just bumped my ratings like by.
Yeah.
Did you put everybody? I just edited out. Brief interruption. We have pets coming on the show, and his pet just happens to be vocal and wants to take over the show, so he had to take
She's trying to take over, get her podcast debut, man.
That's cool.
So I believe I was talking about my father. They raised us, were discipling us, and raised us in the way, you know, to know God, and of course, I believe for everybody there comes that point in life where you have to really make that decision where you know you can't live off your parents' faith.
Yeah,
and you gotta figure it out for yourself. And
yeah, because I feel like I feel like your sister kind of always stayed steady, like she wanted to always seek inner faith, but it's like for a while there, you and your brother were like, okay, we're about to cause some trouble and we want to see how the other side works. And and your brother Age, man, love the dude. He's such a cool guy. I remember him in high school, good basketball player, played music. He's one of those kind of like I could do everything kind of guy. And but he also could get in trouble really good too.
he definitely was a do everything kind of guy, or he'd always have a focus on something, and then sometimes it would just change and it would just change everything.
Yeah.
But he always did everything to the best. Like whatever he did, he went all out and did it all out.
Yeah, including like when he started like really like getting in trouble, like wanting to see how the other side lived. Like how because I mean, and I want to like eventually get back to what where your parents guided you guys, because it's worked for me also. But you guys like, and you were like, and it's always like young brother, like, man, I see brother doing this. Everything looks so glamorous. When they do something that he's like getting in trouble, they're like, well, and he just got these, whether it be new kicks or something, or he got this and that. And you're like, man, I kind of want to do what he's doing because it looks like enticing, right?
There was that. There's also, so there's a flip side to that too, because that is true. But there's also as the youngest, where you see the olders mess up and do things, and then you're like, well, I don't want to do that, or I don't want to hurt my parents that way.
Yeah.
Sometimes there was that. Oh, did I just have a thumbs up? I think he just did a thumbs up on me. This crazy technology, man.
Yeah.
there's the flip side where, sometimes I learned from their mistakes, which is good. But then really when I was, when I was in, I think 7th grade is when my parents decided to put me in Christian school.
Yeah.
And that's where I met, some gangbanging homies.
That kind of funny how it works that way, right?
Right. But I guess it makes sense, right? Because kids are getting into trouble and stuff. So the parents pull them and put them in. That's not why I went. I just went to Christian school because we were Christians.
Yeah.
So getting friends, at school, but who were gangbanging, I started going in that direction. It was like a peer pressure, or not where they were pressuring me, but it was just the thing to do. Right. Plus, in Commerce City in that time, that was the thing to do, period. Anyway, it was Commerce City was nothing but gangs.
Yeah.
So it turns out it was a rival gang for my brother. So yeah, I would see stuff he was doing, but
I remember that
it was rivals. So there would be somewhat clash where age would see me and be like, "What are you doing wearing that color?
Yeah,
you don't get jumped or shot today or something." It's like, well, look at you. I hope you don't either. It's like a little bit of tension, but because of that, we never really were close or hung out in that aspect. So I never hung out with him while he was doing his gangbanging, and he has a testimony of his own, but he was a leader of a gang that originated out there, and so he has some crazy stories of just that gangbanging life in the 90s, but because I was so young in 7th grade, I was just getting caught up in that life. I never really, we got in fights at the malls and, tried to represent and whatever. I personally was never like jumped in the gang or anything, and my homies were, but,
I never
went that far, but I was definitely headed down that path to do that stuff.
And, I kind of want to bring it full circle, because there was a moment where your brother ended up getting incarcerated, and it was like your parents are like, "Man, what are we doing? How do we get, like, how did he get here when we're trying to raise him up as Christians?" And then they see you and they're like, "Man, what is going on?" But I always think in retrospect, it's like, man, there's so much out there in the world to tempt young people, to pull them out of like what God has designed us for. And the great thing is that you guys, when he got out of jail, he's like, "I can't do this anymore." And your sister happened to start talking to Carlos and asking him, "Hey, we know you guys because we're in a group called God's New Creation." And she's like, "Man, my younger brother, like, he's good at music and everything, like, but she knew who you were, but where you were heading is not who you were." So Carlos was like, "Yeah, let's start doing some stuff together." And kind of like was the birth of Preachers in the Hood, right?
In a sense, yeah. So there was a lot packed in that. Let me back up a little bit. So talking about how my brother, he got incarcerated. He got caught for a bunch of different felonies. He was looking at 3 different counts of 40 to life in prison. And it was at that moment where he finally made that decision and change of that we were talking about, where you come to your own decision and and it was, got on his knees in the jail cell and cried out to God, and, "Lord, if I end up going to prison, then so be it. Then I'm going to be your soldier in here, and I'm going to try and win souls for you in here for the next 40 years or whatever I do." And that's a basic mini version of his, life-changing story testimony. Through it all, he because he was a first time offender in different circumstances, he ended up getting a couple weeks of work release sentence. And then, he had, a bunch of 5 years or so of probation and different things he had to do, off of that sentence. So, the day he was to turn himself in for his sentence, my older brother, older than him. So it goes my older brother, Danny, then age, then my sister, then me. And they're like almost 11 months apart. They're really close in age, raised by the same parents, taught the same values, disciplined, spanked, or whatever the same way.
Yeah.
Taught great values the same way. Everything's the same. That same day that my brother had to turn himself into jail, at 12 noon, my older brother was reporting to police academy at 12 noon on that same day. So there's like just the contrast of the two different personalities, mentalities, the mindsets, of just, you got to make your own decisions in life type thing. You can't live off of your parents, salvation and be good. It's just a crazy picture to think of. So he gave his life to God in the jail cell, and he was dealing with all that. Meantime, like you said, my sister, she knew Carlos from school, and they were talking, and she knew I was hanging around the bad crowd, the wrong crowd. And my homies and I used to rap. We used to, make instrumentals to Dr. Dre or to just different rappers out there. And we'd figure out ways to record it, with our boom boxes with the little built-in mics, or we'd figure out just whatever we could do back then, to record and rap. And we'd write little raps ourselves, but never really knew how or what to do with it. And, it's just all for fun. And so she knew that I liked that lifestyle and liked the rap. And so she asked Carlos to just come meet me, see if he could hang out with me. Maybe I could start hanging out with him instead of the other guys. And he can, help influence me to see, your group, God's New Creation, with you guys. And that's when Carlos came down. And then eventually I was hanging out with you guys and watching you guys do practice. And Carlos really, it was really cool. We clicked, and he would come down all the time. And he has stories, on the Kings of Monaco podcast, we talked about how he would come down and we would be just cleaning his car all day, all morning. We'd just wipe down his car, clean it, getting all ready. And then we'd go cruising, or we'd go wherever we needed to go for the day. And, so it was pretty cool. We got really close, and it was a lot of fun. And because of that, through that is what helped me change my mind and get my mindset of, I want to serve Christ. I don't want to be doing all this stuff anymore. I want to serve Christ. On top of that, I would love to be able to rap like you guys. Like, this is actually something that could happen. Like, I could actually have a group or of me. I don't know. Yeah. And then, so we'll flash forward a little bit. My brother got out of jail, and I can remember the conversation. We seen each other at home, and we were talking to each other on the front porch. And then we just basically let each other know, like, hey, I'm not doing that stuff anymore. I gave my life totally to God. And it was like, really? That's crazy. Me too. Like, I did too, and it was like, well, hey, I want to start rapping, man. We should do some. So I had to, we got together. I had to help teach Age some flows, or how to flow, and, walk him through it. And
I felt like Age was like Eazy-E. He didn't have the cadence.
Yeah. When I watch that story, it does remind me a lot of what we went through.
totally.
with age. Yeah, that's
But
that's
he
pretty
finally
much how
got
it
it.
was.
But he,
Yeah.
yeah. When I seen that, I promise you, that's the first thing I thought. I'm like, that's age right
No
there.
way. When I watched it, I was like, "There's no way he was like age." Like,
Same thing, because Age was like, dude, Age was like a business guy. You know, he knew how to run business,
yeah,
and he actually learned his own style, and he got his own style down and everything, and just like Easy, like it ended up really being really catchy, you know,
yeah,
and it meshed really well with your style and his style. And I said, Preachers in the Hood. Preachers in the Hood was you guys as a group, you and your brother as a group,
yep,
and your sister was singing on your tracks, and it was really cool to see, because that's when I was like, when I first like really, because I was from my perspective, I was like, who's this kid Carlos is bringing around? You know, I knew your family, but
right,
then I was like, man, this dude actually could spit, you know, and when and then learning that, oh, he's actually doing like what I'm doing, like just producing his own stuff, had to learn his own way of doing things. And I even said like on the Kings of Monaco podcast, when you're like first initially doing things, like I hear Kendrick Lamar and I'm like, man, that's what Preachers in the Hood, like that's what Low was doing back in the day, like
yeah,
the heavy bass line with the piano, because that's what you had. It's not because that's what you wanted to do, but that's what you had, and you were making it sound like, and you would put like heavy end on that bass line. And so I, it was cool to hear like when Kendrick did it, because I was like, oh, that's already been done.
right. And
So
I still can't play the keyboard. I don't
yeah,
I don't know chords or anything like that, but I could draw. I could
yeah,
draw music on a computer like nobody's business. Um, a lot of times back then it was me going because age had keyboard knowledge, right? So
yeah,
um it was I would come up with a beat and I'd be like, "Hey, I need this bass line to be like boom 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 boom." He'd be
yeah,
like, "Okay, boom 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 boom," and then he'd play it. I'd be like, "Yeah, that's it right there. That's it. Let's do that." And then we'd just build off of. It was technically still my creation because I was telling him, "Hey, this
yeah.
is how I want it to sound. It needs to go like this," and then I'd find a sound on the computer. Boom. Because by then, as it grew, we got computer programs where our sounds were all in the computers. Then he could play it on the keyboard, and I'd be like, now it needs to have this sound in it, but it needs to, and
Yeah.
I would just tell him what it needed to do, and we'd figure it out. And
So I didn't even know he was like, because so you guys were a true team.
yeah, yeah,
Yeah, that's nice.
because he, I started playing the trumpet. I knew how to read some music that way, but he also had close friends that went pretty far. He had a jazz piano player, a guy who was a piano player that was a good friend of his when he was younger, and um, he, I don't know, I guess he just learned like a lot of jazz and notes and whatever. So he just knew he was comfortable on the keyboard and knew some things. So, um, yeah, I could build, like I said, I could build sounds and songs on the computer all day long. That was my
Yeah.
forte, but to actually sit down and play chords and things like that, I never really learned.
So I mean, we're looking at your backdrop. You got like all the toys like in front of you and behind you. Um, I have you always just been like that since like early on?
I have. So it really because we started the ministry. My dad had a corporate job where he worked on, not working on computers literally, but he worked using computers, and
Yeah.
so he was knowledgeable with how the computers worked. And their job at the time used Macintosh, and he was able to purchase a Mac, an old Mac 2CX by these standards now. It had a 16 megahertz processor, because it was he worked in a company that did the Yellow Pages phone books. So
Oh, yeah.
let's date ourselves, right? So the younger people, we didn't have these things to put all our numbers in and look up. We had these big yellow books that had all the
Yep.
phone numbers to businesses or people in it. And he worked for that company that built those. So there was a lot of graphics and things like that. So back to the computer, it had 24 megabytes of RAM, and that was huge back then. To have 24 megabytes, and it was worth thousands of dollars to
Yeah.
have. So we scored with this Macintosh 2CX 16 megahertz processor computer. We got a computer program that ran MIDI and hooked to our keyboard to it, and yeah, that's how. Because also through the business part of Preaches in the Hood, we had that computer. We had other computers in the house to run the business part, and so I had to. I've always had like this knack of just knowing how things work. Sort of like talking about, I sat on the drum set and just started playing it. So whenever there was troubleshooting to do, I always just sat down on the computer and was like, oh, I bet this is how you're supposed to,
Yeah.
do this control panel and that control panel. And so I always had that natural knack and ability. So I had to teach myself how to network the computers in the house. We got a DSL line back then. It was like a 230 kilobit, that was high speed internet back then. That was blazing fast. And, so we figured out how to network and share that internet connection with all the computers. Back then it was all wired. There was no such thing as Wi-Fi. So learning just computer networking and all that stuff just really just is what I got that knack from.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like all self-taught, and that was even like a career path I started after, when I grew up.
I know.
I got a little older.
And it's like one of those things that you like you said, you taught yourself again. You saw your dad doing some things and kind of the way to program things, but then like even because we were the same way, we were like making our own graphics, we were doing our own everything,
We had a copy of Photoshop 2.0, and that was before layers and everything. And I used to do Photoshop pictures like nothing, like crazy.
Yeah, man. And it's like, it's kind of a testament. I mean, because it's so much easier now, like the way things are right now. Technically, so easy to get around things, like the way even AI builds you things that you don't even need to build. So, but you've always had that, like that in you, and it goes down from the music to like building, like even what you're doing now. And I kind of want to like move along down the line, because you guys had a pretty decent career as Preachers in the Hood, and it was so cool to see like the way you guys grew, and you guys, your niche was like it was out to a lot of like the gangs in the communities. You guys performed at a lot of jails and places that people didn't want to go to. We did a lot of those victory outreach like tours.
Yeah.
And
straight from the hood tours, and
straight from the hood tours, and just kind of like was a part of something that and people look at it, and we talked about this also, how people looked at, even because you guys are Preachers in the Hood and you guys look like you're still in the hood, because you guys are decked out in the way you guys were just being you. You look like two gangsters. Like if you were to approach somebody, like they're like, is this guy gonna give me the word or give me a sword? Or give me the gun or give me the word.
So, and a lot of times it was like that, and that was how we used we used that as a ministry tool. Because a lot of times we'd get, hey, where you from? You know, it was like, hey, man, let me tell you something, man. We used to do that stuff, but we don't do that anymore, man. This is what we do. We give our life to God and we blah, blah, blah. And it opened the door, you know. I mean, we used to carry our pocket Bibles, you know.
Yep.
And we put our license in that.
Yeah.
Because we get pulled over also. Because we look like gang members, you know. We get pulled over, we get bumped up by the police all the time. And hey, man, this is what we do now, man. We pull out our license out of our Bible. Here's my ID, man. And we blah, 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 you know. This is what we do.
Yeah.
So it's been a crazy journey, man. I remember, you know, we were talking on the KOM podcast, just how crazy it was. And I didn't think of this story, but, you know, there was one time when, you know, I was young. I was 13 when I started rapping.
Yeah.
And so, you know, 14, 15, 16, doing this. And I remember a cop tried to bump us up at 7-Eleven one time off of Federal. And I was just like, man, this is God's side. This is God's side. You want to put me on a gang list? Put me on God's side. I remember pulling my Bible out. This is so stupid, man. Just stupid kid stuff, you know. And, I remember Age like looking at me like, "Are you crazy? That's a cop." Like,
yeah.
He's like, "I'm sorry, sir. My brother's just crazy."
Yeah, he's like, dude, I already
He's like, "Go wait for me in the car, man.
I already been through this. I don't want to go through this again."
Yeah, and he's like, "Man, you know, just dumb kid stuff, man. When we were so young, it was fun, though."
Yeah, I mean. But it was a tool because like a lot of these guys, they're like, oh, I don't like, this is who I am. This is my culture. I'm not trying to like change who I am. Like, I don't know if I should say change who I am. Cause I mean, you are changing who you are when you accept God and you do mature and you do start becoming something, but you showed them that like, yeah, we're just two guys from where you are and trying to change the narrative about, you know, people from the hood, you know, it's not. Yeah.
And showing them that, hey man, you're a cholo today. You accept Christ today, man. You got to go put a suit on tomorrow. Yeah. It's not going to happen. Hey, brother, you got to stop sagging your pants tomorrow if you give your life to Christ. No, man, that's not going to happen. It's not a change like that overnight. It's the change is within. You know, and then once that changes within, maybe things will start changing on the outward.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it, man. So, yeah, that's definitely a good way to put it. And then because so you go through your career in music, and like I said, you guys had a good stretch. I mean, winning awards. I mean, it spoke for itself at the time, and. But you know, God has us in seasons. I mean, that's primarily why I call this podcast On to the Next, because we always have these pivotal moments in our lives where like, well, God has me going in this direction now, where you're like, when you're thinking preaching in the head, I'm like, man, I'm going to do this. Or I was at God's New Creation. I'm like, this is what I'm going to do for the rest of my life, you know?
Yeah.
You kind of think that way, but you know, God, you know, had you pivot in direction. And you mentioned like your brother was in law enforcement, your older brother, oldest Danny.
Yeah.
And was that kind of like a inspiration because you had eventually got into law enforcement? Did he kind of inspire you to go in that direction, or? So
it was, man. So with me having computer knowledge and stuff, naturally I grew when I grew up and had to get jobs and whatnot, I got in the computer field and started being a PC tech.
Yeah.
And IT and all that in that area. So around when the economy started tanking around 9/11 and just before that, when the economy tanked, you know, it hit me too. The tech jobs were getting laid off. I got laid off, budget cuts, jobs in the 90s that was making $20 something an hour, which would be like making, you know, $80 an hour nowadays.
Yeah.
we're now only paying $11 an hour.
Yeah, that's
and
crazy.
stuff like that, you know. So I got hit hard, and my wife and I got laid off right when my wife was about to have our first baby.
Oh my goodness. Yeah.
And so talk about a stressful time. And it's so I always with my brother being an officer, I always did ride-alongs with him, and I was talking to my wife, and I was like, hey, like, look at my brother. Like, he has not a worry in the world. He's got job security.
Yeah.
Like, nobody's laying off cops right now. Nobody's laying off. So I was like, I should just go to academy, and if that's not the direction I go, then hey, at least I got some training.
Yeah.
You know, and here I am, 20 years later, and
Yeah.
had a career in that.
Yeah, I mean, you've always kept your obviously behind you. Like I said, you got all these toys and everything. You kept your technical like skills you put them through use throughout those 20 years also, because
Right.
I mean, even to now, like you're doing a radio show for a local radio station in Denver, Colorado. Is it local right now, or is it?
Well, it's headquarters is local, but it's a worldwide radio station, and so,
Oh, okay. And you're spinning like Christian hip hop, right?
Yeah. My show is a show of just Christian hip hop, and it's just Christian hip hop radio.
Yeah. Does it kind of feel like, after Preachers in the Hood, you're like, man, how am I going to get back to this point? Does it kind of feel like a back to this point because now you're like being able to promote on air like a lot of the young cats and even some of the old stuff?
It is cool in that aspect. It's like man, for one, it was like, oh, I have a ministry again.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And it's like I'm not like doing a preaching. It's not a radio show where I'm up there preaching and taking prayer requests and prayer lines are open and nothing like that. I'm spinning music.
Yeah.
And maybe talking about maybe a little gossip that happened here and there between an artist, or, maybe at that, but, I'm having fun with it. I get, it's a 2-hour block. I've had to drop it down to an hour recently just because of, it's summer again and life is crazy, but, I have a lot of fun with it. It's, but yeah, it is sort of like I have a ministry again.
Yeah. Yeah, that's cool, man. Cause I mean, even with what I'm doing, like I felt like this podcast was kind of like getting back to in sense somewhat of a ministry, because my goal in this is to help people if they hear the show, like how do I move onto my next, and to eventually turn it into a nonprofit organization, so it's
Right.
like that's kind of like what I felt with this. So I mean, like I said, man, I'm glad that you decided to come on, because I hit you at last minute, and I'm like, my dudes always come in the clutch, So, trust me, I had to pull Carlos on last minute too, because I had like a last minute cancellation, and this was because I had like so much. I have people lined up, but it's just, man, I've just been so busy with my on to the next that I'm like
Right.
man, I need to still. It's like juggling a couple of things, like just like what you're doing. You're juggling 2 or 3 things at a time.
Yep.
So you know how that is.
Family
But
alone, man, is crazy,
yeah,
raising kids and having teenagers now. And,
yeah.
so it's, life is
How
crazy.
long have you been married now?
25 years.
Oh, we're right behind you. We're 23
Yeah.
years.
It'll be
So-
actually, so I take that back. It'll be 25 this month. So yeah. It's safe to say 25.
Yeah, good, man. And I mean, you still look young, and people think 25 years. What'd you get married when you were like 15?
Man,
So that, yeah, man, I appreciate you coming on, because I mean, it's always fun to catch up with somebody that I know who's you, and I don't really even see, like, you had a short period in your life where you like kind of went off the tracks, you know?
yeah,
And for you, it was like, okay, I like my parents raised us right, and I know where I'm supposed to be. And I know you've been the same way. You and your wife are devout Christians,
yes,
and that's how you guys have raised your family, right? And so
yep,
you kind of see the effects of like what your parents were telling you back then, how it works, how it
yeah.
still applies.
You know, the Bible says, train your kids in the ways of the Lord, you know, and
Yeah,
they will come back to those roots. And I definitely did. And, you know, I could only hope and pray that my kids, you know, get that great relationship. I've got my oldest daughter is awesome, and um, you know, and all we could do, right, is raise our kids in the ways of the Lord and teach them the right way and hope for the best.
yeah, man. So that I think that's what this episode is just really about, because I mean, it's like, even with age, you know, age kind of went from one extreme to the other, but came back.
Yeah,
And it just shows how your parents were so like, they're they're being in touch with God and his love, and showing that, handing it down to you guys, not like saying, I'm gonna. And I always look at it as like, you know, when we're like, when you go bowling for the first time, they put up those bumper guards, you know.
right.
And that's kind of what, like, I feel like we're given as Christians when we start out, and then all of a sudden these bumper guards don't come, and dude, we end up in the gutter like a lot of times, you know.
Yep.
And so it's like, I mean, for you, you just, you know, you had a couple gutter balls, and then you were back on track in strikes, you know. So
Yep. Yep.
so I mean, your brother got lost. He got lost in the bottom of the gutter.
Yeah, he's
But
after it passed the pins, it got lost somewhere in the back, and
yeah,
it
the ball didn't return right
never
away.
returned back up. I don't know.
Yeah.
Eventually,
So
it did.
yeah, well, yes, he was actually found eventually, which he's done an amazing job with. He has, like, he's another podcast that I want to have on. Can't wait
Man,
to have him on.
you've got it. He's had so many on his nexts, onto
Yeah,
his nexts. You know,
yeah, I know.
from being a skateboarder, you know, to gang banging, to owning a car club, to being a pastor. You know,
Dude, I'm telling you, that guy's just one of those dudes. It's like, when he decided to do something, he was like, oh, I guess I'll be good at this, you
yep,
know,
president
including,
of Christian motorcycle clubs.
yeah. So, but man, I mean, your story in itself, man, it's a, like I said, it's a testament of like the way your parents were raised. And I know you have a wonderful family. Your wife, tell her I said hello and thank you for letting me borrow you for a few, because I
Oh,
know.
dude, she's actually out hiking today, so
Oh, is she? Oh, nice.
yeah. So it was like, this is perfect. I'm gonna have a quiet house, and
Yeah, except for the cat.
yeah, except for the cat. My daughter came in and let the cat in, and
Yeah.
then I
So
think it's edited, but she wanted to show her butt off on the camera, you know.
I think that's what I'm going to put as your
Cats.
I'm going to put that as your picture.
Yeah. Yep.
No, man. But dude, I appreciate you coming on, because like I said, it's you have a great story about how to just stay true in your convictions and raise your family that way and continue on to now doing your radio show, and then now you're spinning records for God, and
Yeah,
I
let me throw a
appreciate you
plug for
doing
that
that.
real quick, because
Yeah,
it's Sunday nights, skyblueradio.com. You could check it out live. It's 6 p.m. That's Mountain Time. So Universal Time, I think it's midnight. So skyblueradio.com. They have an app. They put podcasts out of all the live shows. It's a secular radio station, but they let me have a Christian show on it on Sunday nights. So it mostly plays, like 60s, 70s, 80s. They play everything. But
Yeah.
that's another cool thing about it is they just give me my show. I don't have a special format I have to follow. Once in a while, I'll have to play one of their commercials, but I don't have to all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a pretty sweet opportunity, and good friend Jeff, he runs it, owns it, and it's been around for 18 years, and man, it's been awesome. I was looking up earlier, last places, I get told who's listening while I'm live, and I had a bunch of places out in America, but I had Germany, Finland, Mexico, Puerto Rico.
Dude, that's awesome.
Yeah. And
Yeah.
They're all tuning into it. So it's pretty sweet.
Well, dude, send me the link. That way I could put it up. I'll put up
Okay.
an image of what it looks like. That way when people see, well, when they look up for it, they're like, oh, that's it. Because I seen it on the On to the Next podcast.
Right.
And that's our boy Flo on the 1-2s.
Yeah.
So cool, man. Well, I appreciate you. And dude, we'll have to do this again. We always love having you on the Kings of Monaco podcast. And tell your brother I'm coming for him next.
I keep telling Carlos, man, you need to have me as a producer on there so I don't have to be on the on the screen, but my bad. But let me be a producer. I do all your backgrounds, all your
Dude, that's what we need because Carlos.
So keep telling him, man, you guys need a producer on there.
You could blur out Carlos's face every once in a while.
Yeah. And so knowing Carlos have to. My bad. Wrong button.
And that's your plug for producer.
Yeah, that's exactly what I. I was saying with Carlos, I would need to beep him out sometimes, but I guess I don't have that queued up.
Yeah. Well, we laugh at him a lot too, so that was perfect.
Yeah.
So, right on, man. Well, appreciate it. Have a good night, and we'll talk soon, man.
Yeah, man. Thanks for having me. It's been awesome.
All right, we'll see you
later.